Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Automate It, our weekly podcast where we talk about how to build robots. I, of course, am Stefan and Ilia, the CEO and co-founder of Polymath Robotics. And across from me is a gentleman who seems to be wearing a shirt where apes are evolving into man, but instead it is just Lego bricks. And who exactly are you?
I am actually still at CES. This is just my manifestation here in the office. I've been trapped.
You're kind of like a force projection, but of stealth, of being tired.
Exactly.
Of stress. A stress projection. Well, thank you all for joining us this week at Automate It, our weekly podcast at Polymath, where every week we do two things. We first play a game or we spitball through making a robot, and that's going to be a very fun episode this week. And another section where we talk about general things in robotics, how to build robots, how to make autonomous systems. We just got back from CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, 150,000 person event that now has approximately 75,000 people who are only interested in autonomy and automation and cars and tractors and forklifts and things like that. You know, exactly what people thought of as consumer electronics back in, 1982 when the conference probably started.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want a giant John Deere tractor in their backyard?
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
That is how, like, some people have that little thing you plug into the hose to spray water in a nice little thing.
Yeah.
I have a 100-foot sprayer.
Yeah.
That's just how we got down as kids.
That's right. Yeah. As it drives around, John Deere's big thing was their tractor sprays only when it needs to, which is awesome. But imagine using that to water your lawn. But it's so large. You know, I grew up in Toronto suburbia, so it's so large. It would stretch over my lawn, my neighbor's lawn, and my other neighbor's lawn. And the best part would be as it sprays, I'll just not spray selectively patches of grass to draw out like a big angry face or something. You know, you got to do something like that.
That would show them for messing up their backyards.
Absolutely.
So for this week's game, I've pre-drawn two cards, and this will...
No, this is totally random.
Yeah,
of course,
totally random.
Yeah.
And the two cards this week, where every week we draw a technology card and a business case card. This week, we're going to be focusing on, how you might move people around conferences.
Well, let's step back, right? What is the game? What is the game in total?
So the game that we play is every week we draw two cards, usually randomly. One of the cards is a piece of technology like LiDARs or teleop or mobile robots or whatever. The other is a business case. And the way we like to think of this game is it's a CEO and a CTO teaming up. And one of them has a technology they want to build off of, and the other has a business that they want to solve.
So totally drawing randomly, We're going to draw, let's say, conferences as our location.
Because we might have been at a conference recently.
Yeah. And for technology, let's do personal transportation.
Yep.
Because we walked so much, my feet are still hurting.
And so for those of you who have never been at CES before, which I thought was like nobody, but apparently it was everyone else in our company who went to CES this year. CES is massive. Like the first morning of it, someone texted me, "Oh, you should go see this person speak." Like, yeah, that's cute. I've never seen a speaker at CES. I've never walked 60% of the show floor at CES. It is the entire Las Vegas Convention Center and the convention centers of 1 or 3 or 42 hotels nearby, and a day-long sojourn to a racetrack to see autonomous Indy cars drive around.
Yeah, as somebody who's a huge fan of technology, I kept having to repeat to myself, you can't see all of it. You can't see all of it. You can't see all of it.
You mostly spend time at CES hustling from one side to the other. Last year when I went, I was, I'd be in one conference hall and someone would say, "Yeah, let's meet in 10 minutes over here." And they'd literally be saying, "Let's meet. Why don't you walk really fast for an hour and a half to meet me for 10 minutes over a coffee while we can't sit down?" Which is less than fully pleasant. So maybe we think about how we could move people from one part of CES to another.
Yeah. So starting with tech, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to give people direct control over...
Because people make bad decisions. There's people from all over the world. People are drinking, all these things.
I'm sure you could see tons of YouTube videos of people on Segways making poor life choices and ending up on the floor. Don't want to repeat that.
I think the big problem isn't moving around the floor. Like, that is a problem. It's moving from one part of the floor to another.
Yeah, exactly. So again, CES, there is multiple aircraft carrier sized buildings. We were in the West Wing. There's a north wing.
We're the west wing of that was itself the size of an aircraft carrier, apart from another wing of the Las Vegas Convention Center, which is another aircraft carrier.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. So the first day we got in, we came in off the monorail that was connected to our hotel because our our producer, marketing lead, strategy person, everything that is non-technical and non-Stefan at Polymath, Nicole.
Including producing the show.
Yep, including producing the show, picked like, hey, let's stay at a hotel that's 2 monorail stations away from the convention center. So the first day, we get off the monorail, we're at the convention center, we enter the hall, and then we walked for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
We spent...
I was coming in later, and Nicole sent me multiple text messages saying, basically, whatever you do, do not do what we did. Yeah. It was miserable.
We walked quickly for 45 minutes and showed up, in business clothes, kind of sweaty at our booth, which is a good look.
All right. I think we've established the scene enough. So
maybe the way that we want to think about this is, how do you go from the north hall of the convention center to the west hall?
To the west hall.
Maybe there's another.
Yeah.
So like in terms of thinking about this, the real estate at a trade show is a premium.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to be taking out parking spaces, because they rent out those parking spaces to people to build whole buildings that are frankly nicer than the homes of 500 million people worldwide. They build those whole buildings for a week of the show, tear them all down. And so you don't want to take out that space. So you either have to go over the trade show building or below it.
Yep. And this being a tech conference and us being, needing to transport a lot of people, you probably want it to be electric. You don't want a diesel engine running and move people around. So for those of you very reasonably saying, isn't that what the monorail does? No, the monorail only stops at one part of the convention center, and from that spot to anywhere else is a good 1.5-hour walk. So we're talking about from the monorail station throughout the entire convention center, electric, probably self-driving, hopefully, right? So people don't do something stupid. That's the scope. All right.
So one system I could see, especially because while real estate is scarce, renting opportunities are valuable. So like, why couldn't you just do like a gondola, like a ski lift from one side to another?
Yeah. I mean, ski lift is a good idea. So not only ski lift, but you have those billboards on the side that talk about like sponsored by X.
Yep.
The downside I see with that is it's not personal transportation, right? So it's not taking you to a specific place. I don't want to sit with someone. I just want to get in my pod.
You just have like really small ski lift vehicles?
You could. Have you been to a fair with ski lifts? The lineup for the ski lift tends to be an order of magnitude longer. But
you could have hundreds of these cars. You could have a ski lift coming through every 30 seconds.
Every 30 seconds, you'd be waiting for half the day. It would have to be like every second kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so gondola system wouldn't work.
Be expensive too, and dangerous.
Yeah, I think any of these options are going to be expensive and dangerous.
Let's hopefully expensive and safe.
Another option that say maybe some people might do is a tunnel underneath the ground.
Oh, yeah. What was that company that was doing tunneling under Las Vegas?
I think it's like related to some CEO that no one ever talks about. Definitely never tweets about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess you could bore a tunnel under the Las Vegas Strip. Probably be pretty expensive as well. Mm-hmm. You not only have to bore the tunnel, you have to line the walls.
Probably good use for venture dollars of a pre-product company.
Yeah, definitely.
That needs an excuse to dig a tunnel.
Yeah. Not only that, you want your vehicles to kind of not generate traffic jams when they're in the tunnels.
That would never happen, because a system designed like this would never have a traffic jam.
No, absolutely not.
And for those of you who haven't caught on yet, we're being more than slightly facetious. We might cue in what we're being facetious about later. I'm more enjoying not saying it right now, but we're being more than slightly facetious about this whole situation. So let's say it's an underground tunnel.
All right.
You have 3 stations, North Hall, West Hall, I presume East Hall. I've never been to the East Hall. I imagine they have all the best things there.
Yep.
Let's say we want to go from the North Hall to the West Hall. There's a tunnel that's been dug between the two. What should we put in that tunnel?
See, you kind of want some sort of small self-driving vehicle.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, if you're in a tunnel, right, you don't really have obstacles.
Yep.
Except the car in front of you, behind you. It's essentially a train without tracks. Should be reasonably straightforward to automate.
Why wouldn't you just do a train, though?
Right.
Or actually, having been to many of America's fine airports, why not just do a people mover?
You mean like one of those moving rolling carpets?
Yeah, an escalator but flat. You have a north to westbound people mover. You have a west to northbound people mover. It moves at a clip of 7 miles an hour.
Yep.
So it's not too fast, and maybe you go from people mover to people mover, so it's slightly slower as you're getting off.
But I want to be in my own pod, Stefan. I don't want to be around other people.
That's why God created noise canceling headphones. Noise canceling headphones are the privacy pod that comes with you.
I feel like Stefan's setting us up to be purchased by Sony or or Bose or one of these like noise canceling.
I just gotta say, as a pro tip to anyone out there, walking through a trade show floor with noise canceling headphones on is dramatically less overstimulating. as our public bathrooms are dramatically more private feeling. Just feels like a really terrible bathroom that you're staying at. But so you can have a people mover. It's electric, moving from point to point.
But the important thing is it should be fully autonomous.
A people mover is autonomous.
No. Like in a tunnel. No. I'm stuck on the pod idea. I want to have a small electric pod.
Yeah.
It just drives down.
So you're underground and you want to be in a small enclosed space.
Yes, exactly.
Like, why not just put you in a coffin?
Ventilation.
Why not? Why not? We could basically put you in a lie down on the ground coffin. You could like take a little disco nap for your 3-minute ride.
So you're saying pneumatic tubes.
Yeah, that's like pneumatic tubes.
So what you're saying is it's a vacuum tube in which a vehicle goes through.
That sounds like another thing invented by this same untweeted about person who will remain nameless, who definitely does not have an animal-like smell or a name that sounds like that.
So, I mean, the main thing that you suffer from with single tunnels and things like that, and why you had traffic jams, is the really painful part with humans is loading and unloading them. You can't like just toss them in like luggage. They take their time getting out of the vehicle. They got to collect the things.
So you're
they forgot their
saying
cell
that
phone.
even if, for example, we didn't use people movers, we didn't use coffins, we just used self-driving cars,
you'd still pay the cost.
It'd still be unbearably painful.
Yeah, because the way that coming around to it, what we're kind of poking fun at is what's called the loop, the
Vegas loop, or I like to refer to it as a test loop, which has no relationship to the car service where a teenager in LA used to drive kids to Vegas in his Tesla, which was a real business.
The test loop, as we'll call it, I guess. The main problem with it is your unloading and offloading stations. That's where 90% of your time is spent. And so the vehicles are idle. They're not driverless. I have no idea why.
So you take
you
take an escalator down and then you wait in a line full of people to then get in a car with other people you don't know.
Yep.
So it is frankly less private than a people mover.
Yeah.
To then have all the interaction of a 2015 era Uber, where the Uber driver is just thrilled to talk. He's so excited. He might have a couple of jokes he rolls out. He might just have some things he wants to tell you about his day. He's kind of upset that you have noise canceling headphones on and that you're just trying to imagine you're at your house right now and have your eyes closed. He's kind of vaguely saying something like that to the people in the back seat. But hey, whatever. You're experiencing the future while this person drives you in a tunnel.
Yeah. So let's not do that. I like the people mover idea.
For my dollar, gondolas idea number one.
Gondolas? I don't know. All right. Going off into futuristic randomness. There's a few companies, I think even Toyota, who built these really nice sort of like Segways, but they're enclosed. Okay. So you sit, they're like a people mover, but on Segway, completely autonomous, basically self-balancing. You sit down, nice little conditioned pod, drives around at, running pace, nothing crazy. Perfect. Just that, right? Because they're individual, one per person.
I don't mind the one per person as long as the driver doesn't talk to me. If everyone else is a vaguely annoyed business traveler.
Why is there a driver?
Because you can't solve self-driving in a tube you built.
Yeah, right.
The technology isn't there.
Basically featureless tube.
Yeah.
With a straight line shot.
Well, you designed it, so it's featureless by choice. They've decided to make it featureless.
Okay, fair.
And I presume they've decided to make there not be GPS.
I mean, fair. I'm being a little bit mean.
Some people make the problem easier for themselves. Others make it harder.
Make it much harder.
And that's what we should always do. That's how we know that we do the equivalent of playing every video game on impossible mode, because we're that much cooler, and that's our flex.
I mean, to be fair, I think we're being a little bit mean. It's not totally featureless. There is RGB lighting throughout the entire tunnel and the things.
It's like the Battle Station subreddit.
It's perfect. So honestly, I think what we've come around to is the loop is perfect in every way. There's no flaws whatsoever, and we can't think of a better plan.
It never is unbuildable.
Alrighty. Coming around to CES itself, I think we saw a number of kind of common.
Well, I think more zooming out from that.
All right.
Come back from CES. People are like, how was CES? What you see?
Yeah.
What interesting? What gadget of the future besides the Tesla loop did you experience in the last week?
I gotta say, the most life-changing was the TOG booth, which was
TOG,
completely.
If you are a Wall Street bets person, go buy TOG shares right now. Now, I don't know if they're listed.
They're probably not.
And I don't know if Robinhood gives you access to the Turkish exchange that they're being money laundered through. But TOG is the future. And as way of background, about 100 feet away from our booth, which we shared with our great friends at Ouster LiDAR,
Thank you so much for that, by the way. We had a blast.
We had a champagne experience on a beer budget, and usually beer is a little rich for me. So about 100 feet away from it was this booth for a company called TOG. And it just was like this,
enormous
beautiful experience.
Enormous.
There was a tube, I think, at some point.
There was fountains. There was live greenery. There was VR stations. There was a wraparound giant
Everything
screen.
you need at a CES booth.
Yeah.
And
the ceiling was moving and activated. The floor was lit up in different ways. Like, it was sensory overload in a tiny little package.
And there was no clarity about what they did. They did have some signage around CES saying, the future of mobility.
Yeah.
And is this a sim company? Is this a sensor company? What the heck are these guys doing? As it turns out, our producer, who's capable of Googling things, which is a skill I've yet to master, found out that they are, in fact, a Turkish automotive company. Or, nope, I apparently gave all credit to Nicole when it should have gone to Ilia last time I do that. So apparently they are a Turkish automotive company who has been founded around 2018, 2017. And as of today, they have only a single weird rendering on their website of any car that they're going to make. However, I'm bullish. This is the car for me.
Yeah. If you've spent this much on marketing, you know you're going to be good at engineering.
Yeah, you're going to be good.
I mean, look at Apple. Most of their stuff is marketing.
Yep. Boom.
It's not like they have any engineering talent. They don't ship 50 million devices, however many a year. Like, they don't know what they're doing. TOG is the bet.
But more broadly, so we didn't really get a chance to walk every part of the show floor, but we did talk to a lot of people. We crashed a couple of parties, got invited to one where they first made us sit at the bar to wait to get in. So did we get into that one at all? I don't really know. But in terms of sentiment, I guess, Ilia, what I guess was the vibe? What were the vibes you're picking up?
So I did get to wander the floor a little bit, maybe for an hour or two. I really respect Ouster. I think they're doing really great stuff, but I feel it's a horrible time to be a LiDAR company.
Yeah.
There was probably 3 dozen in our floor alone. And then when I explored the other kind of consumer tech area, there was another 2 dozen LiDAR companies.
We need a lot of diversity of LiDAR suppliers.
I don't know. Not only was there a ton of LiDAR companies, every single one of them had the same booth design, which was a big screen showing the raw point cloud out of their LiDAR.
That's the most important part of figuring out if the LiDAR companies want to rely on.
It's not like you process it, right? Like, this is the thing that I loved about the Ouster booth, is that they not only showed the raw point cloud, they also showed a processed, like, here's how you track humans, and here's the floor removed and that kind of stuff. But as the other ones, I saw one that, again, was kind of pre-product, pre-shipping, and they showed, they're like, we have a 4D LiDAR. And you see, if you move, you can see the speed at which the object is going at. Great. That sounds really wonderful. What about specs on noise? What about specs on those kind of things? Not released at this time. So we'll see.
so in other words, the market needs 60 LiDAR companies, or maybe a couple of them won't make it.
Well, so
I mean, 1 or 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that, like in the next 24 months, 1 LiDAR company might not make it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So if you're a betting Wall Street bets person and you want to post a lot of lost money, definitely bet on LiDAR companies right now. But I mean, the bigger theme that I saw, at least, was I talked to some LiDAR guys. I talked to some people making infotainment, intelligent screens, like self-heating elements to clean sensors that are getting frosted over, like really interesting, difficult technology. And the theme I got was, we were expecting the autonomous, or at least intelligent car revolution to be here. It hasn't appeared yet. We've built up all this market demand. And the classic thing, you talk to a LiDAR manufacturer, you're like, how expensive is it? Well, if you buy 10,000, it's $100. Okay, great. But like, how much is one? $50,000. Okay, well, so it's not quite there at the scale. And they're kind of stuck in this catch-22 where they can't produce enough at scale to be reasonable. And since they're not reasonable, nobody's building them into their products at scale. Yeah. And the car industry isn't quite there ready to use it yet.
And I mean, I think more broadly than that, that's kind of where the whole autonomy market's at today. Mm-hmm. We were promised that children who are now 17, 20, 23
don't need to learn to drive.
Yeah. And like, that just hasn't happened. And I think like, that's part of what's always been so interesting about this broader autonomy and robotics industry. Like, people love slippery slope discussions in this market.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, my machine learning model can drive for 3 minutes out of every 30. Last week, it can only drive 1 out of every 30. At that rate of improvement, in 2 weeks, we'll be able to drive 90 minutes out of every 30, we will solve all problems. And let's start talking about a post-human future.
Yeah.
Like people love this, like, how we design this, that, and the other. And what's sad is like a lot of people made really real investments in how do you think about infotainment in a car where you don't ever have to be responsible for anything.
Yeah.
And those are cool conversations, to be fair. I'm sure the consultants who worked on those projects had a lot of fun. I'm sure there were some great keynote presentations.
And UX designs and materials engineering, like actually real serious engineering.
You know, it's like the type of thought process that leads a 200-person robo-taxi company to have 10 people to completely rethink the car horn.
Yes.
Not that has ever happened.
Yeah.
But like it's that type of thinking that so many of these groups, like the Garmins and the whoever's and the Harman Kardons of the world, poured a lot of heart and mind share into.
Yeah. And it's unfortunately looking like the industry in general is pulling back a little bit from mass adoption of autonomy, which I think in your and my thought process is probably reasonable. We're not quite there yet. We're not ready for it. When we talk about,
we're quite not ready for it. I think if anything, people are more ready for it than the industry is. I think the technology is not ready for it.
Yeah, I think like our technical companies are not yet ready for it. You know, a lot of people are going to make an argument, but I think our definition here is I get in my car in the morning and it drops me off at work and it goes parks itself. Like anywhere in the world, that level of autonomy, we're still quite a way away from. And despite, you know, Waymo making a lot of progress, despite a bunch of other companies making a lot of progress, I think it's going to be some time before that becomes a standard feature. And so these mass market adoptions of scale don't make sense yet.
What I think is a more interesting trend though, outside, I mean, like plenty of people have told stories about how the autonomy industry is in a bad spot. I mentioned on this podcast, the blog post I was going to write, still haven't published it. So it'll come out soon. It'll be great. But I think what's really interesting is maybe the first time I went to CES was 5 years ago. And there was a little bit of autonomy stuff going on, right? Like our friends from the Autonocast had an anti-CES party. You did not have 500 people in a 200-person room with a 200-person guest wait list for it.
Yep.
It was still a smaller niche thing. On-road autonomy blew up as a thing in CES, especially automakers can sponsor big booths.
Yeah.
Last year, John Deere had a pretty big outdoor pavilion. So like if I was to make up numbers of what booths cost, they had a $500,000 or $300,000 pavilion where they had like a smallish tractor, the type of thing that can come on a flatbed and we're showing it off. This year, John Deere had a $2 million booth with a massive sprayer with a 100-foot boom spread out across it. Right across from them, Caterpillar had a machine set up that frankly had to be brought in by rail and assembled on site and like is a real vehicle, is probably a $4 to $5 million piece of equipment in and of itself.
Without all the autonomy stuff that they built on top.
Yeah. And I think like what we're seeing is CES was the tech conference, like the broad tech industry conference. So it went from, here's a cool gadget to here's a cool app. When autonomy blew up, a small little loser corner of it became like kind of automotive people. That loser corner might be a third of the show these days. Yeah. That loser corner is its own conference in and of itself. Like I bumped into a buddy of mine, a buddy of Nicole and mine's actually, wearing a Sergeant Pepper type of outfit, who was at the more consumer side of CES, and it was talking about like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to go to Snoop or I'm going to go to Imagine Dragons. I'm having such a fun. Like, yeah, I'm mostly having dry conversations with tier 2 suppliers to massive mining companies. But there is now
to be you, man.
There is now this whole breakaway show that is kind of forever going to be an automotive and I think increasingly an industrial vehicle show.
Yeah.
Like I think like a thing that we're seeing is in industrial vehicles, many of the companies, sure. Now Deere will get awarded most innovative company at CES 6 months before CES happens. And Caterpillar will have a big booth and this, that, and the other. But I think in a year or two, we're going to see $5 billion OEMs putting a big presence there. And I think it's going to kind of just become the conference for anyone who makes things move that are valuable.
Yeah, even already this year, there was a ton of weird special purpose electric vehicles that didn't have drivers. There's a whole bunch of variety. I think every large software maker out there, Microsoft, Amazon, whatever, had their own plethora of subcontractors internally showing off.
AWS Automotive had their own $750,000 booth.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a ton. I mean, we're very much heavily biased in the West Hall we were in, but I took a peek at the main North Hall, and there's a ton of robotic stuff there too.
Yeah,
home robots, pool cleaning robots, assistive robots. A lot of stuff is starting to come in.
Was it the pool cleaning robot from Love, Death, and Robots?
That's my favorite episode, by the way. That's the most poetic episode.
And that's homework for all of you to go watch a pool cleaning robot in Love, Death, and Robots who becomes sentient. But I think more. I
think you just spoiled it for our crowd, man. If you're upset, hello@polymathrobotics.com. Send an email. I will forward it to Stefan.
Or just any expletive at polymathrobotics.com. It will find its way to me. And if it says Mailer Damon, that's just our exec assistant. But so yeah, I mean, I'd say my takeaway is broadly we have an industry that is now a little bit cowed. It's a little bit afraid and not doing as well. Like big pronouncements are not there in the same way as they were. The big corporates are currently doing the hand waving that the startups were doing 3 years ago. But everyone's kind of in this where are we spot. And to me, that actually makes it the most exciting time to be building a robotics company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like 4 years ago, when people were showing just all the stuff they had to work with and winning all the pissing contests, it was a irrational time of stupidity and no one was building anything of real value. But if everyone's scared, I mean, like there's that old investing thing of be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. Now's the time to be greedy. Now it's time to go build some robots.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, a few years ago, if you had said, I don't believe any of these autonomous vehicle companies saying they're going to be successful in 2 years, you get laughed out of the stage, right? Like 5 years ago, you'd say, there's no way Tesla's going to ship self-driving vehicles, right? Nobody believed you. Now, everybody believes you. Even like strong Tesla, people who believe in it are not going to believe you.
So I guess, as we wrap up, what all did we do at our booth? Were we just handing out brochures and was I signing t-shirts?
I think Stefan and I were booth babes, basically.
Yep.
And yeah. No, so we had a really great demo where people could come up and drive our vehicles around. We're already planning to come back next year and make a bigger, kind of more fun thing, more interactive.
And by driving our vehicles around, at our booth, we were not only driving our test tractor that we drive, 50 billion minutes a day. We also were driving...
No exaggeration, definitely. There's a time machine on it.
We're driving a robot called Carry by Future Acres, which is a ag logistics vehicle to move fruit that's been picked by a farmer to a sorting station. We're driving a vehicle by a company called Theo, which is a large delivery robot to move goods and food around campuses, primarily in Europe. We're driving a woodland skidder that was pretty cool. And
we were there with our partners from Hardline, their integrator, and we were driving their D4 bulldozer, which got the most response. You should see people's eyes light up. I did this
when
thing.
They realize they're driving a 60,000-pound bulldozer in Canada.
People would come up to me and I'd be like, "Oh, do you want to drive a tractor or delivery robot or bulldozer?" Bulldozer. Absolutely bulldozer. I think the 4-year-old in all of us never goes away.
Yeah, especially when you're driving a 60,000-pound bulldozer on a Steam Deck 3,000 miles away.
Yep.
Well, awesome, Ilya. What are we talking about next week? Yep, he doesn't know because we haven't figured it out yet. Join us next week where we will have a great conversation.
I wish you could see the deer in headlights look I have on right now.
Hopefully I'll freak out my co-founder even more. Thanks so much for joining us.
See you next time.